word. Now, we have dimensions. We talked about it before. Dimensions, scalar grids of consciousness, composed of interwoven layers of scalar waves with varying flash line sequences, which means to have different flash line rhythms, or frequency bands. All right, we use the word frequency a lot, and you'll find that a lot in the New Age movement as well. As far as, oh, I'm doing this frequency, that frequency. What is the frequency? A frequency is simply a flash line sequence, or a set of flash line sequences. We'll get into it in a minute, the 12 subharmonics that go with each dimension. And if we recognize that each dimension is a set of very specific flash line sequences, and that there are smaller sequences of flashing that are going on within that larger sequence, that's where we understand subharmonics. All right, can we put the next one up, please? Let me see if I need the next one or not. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, there's one thing that this is going to take us into that it's important that we begin to understand, because science as it is today does not make this distinction, and neither do New Age teachings. The difference between vibration and oscillation. Most people use those words interchangeably as if they mean the same thing. Like, oh, I'm going to raise my vibration. Or they don't usually say, I'm going to do anything to my oscillation. They use the word vibration. But it's tricky, 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 because oscillation is the turning on. All right? When you raise your oscillation, you are raising your frequency. You are bringing in higher frequency. Now, if you say I'm going to raise my vibration, it means you're lowering your oscillation. It means you're slowing yourself down. It means you're lowering your frequency. There's a trick that's being run in the New Age movement where we're taught to raise our vibration so we can really slow ourselves down to the point where we can't get any of our higher consciousness into our body. Some of those teachings are being billed under Christ consciousness teachings. Good luck. So if we understand that there are some core differences when we understand core creation physics, when a thing is vibrating, it's in its contracted, dormant state, like a particum. It's like the silent song, the pre-sound aspect. And when it comes into activation and forms a standing scalar wave, or that light bulb turns on, that is its oscillation form. So we have vibration and oscillation, vibration and oscillation. And if you want to get higher frequency into your body, frequency is sets of dimensional flashline sequences. If you want higher frequency, you want higher flashline sequences, which means you want things that flash on and off faster. You want to raise your oscillation rate. You want to lower your vibration. So there's little tricks that if you don't know the real core meaning of words, and science right now doesn't make a huge differentiation between them. They don't understand that one is a form of energy holding and contraction, and the other is the same energy expanding into expression. So we use vibration and oscillation in kathara healing in that way. We don't worry a lot about talking about, oh, let's raise your vibration or lower your oscillation. We deal more with very specifics in the body. But it's important to understand that we have frequency bands. They are synchronized, repeating flashline sequences of Partakai phasing. So you have a dimension. We call it a dimensional frequency band. It's not only a flashing on and off rhythm. It's a repeating cycle that continues on and on and on and always follows that pattern. Okay? So it's a synchronized. Word synchronized means dimension 1 has its set pattern and cycle that it keeps doing. There's a synchronization between these flashes in dimension 1 and the next one in dimension 2. They all speak to each other up and down the 15-dimensional scale, where they're literally all synchronized as ways to move consciousness. Moving consciousness, where consciousness hops from one scalar waveform to the next, is what allows us to perceive linear progression of time. So we have synchronized frequency bands, synchronized flashline sequences that literally allow consciousness that's actually standing still and just hanging out in the matrix to experience itself in little pieces as if it were moving through time. So we have frequency bands that are synchronized repeating flashline sequences of Partakai phasing that give the appearance of manifest movement of wave spectra within a dimensional scalar grid. Subfrequency bands are portions of the flashline sequences that make up whole dimensional frequency bands. So you have the whole frequency band in a dimension, and then you have little ones that are running in. It's like one big circle would be your flashline sequence, a circular flashline sequence of light bulbs turning on and off. And there's lots of little circles inside of that. They're all synchronized. The on and off rhythms are synchronized. These flash line sequences and the synchronization of them that are set by the core dimensional templates are what give us our breathing rhythm, our heart rate, our metabolic rates. What they also do, and it's something most of us don't know we do yet, is they make us flash on and off into and out of manifestation. Between each moment, we are actually disappearing and reappearing. So it's not that hard to disappear. Now where we go right now is we go back into density 1, which is dimension 1, 2, and 3, because we haven't figured out how to get our consciousness out of those flash lines yet. But we are actually, in between the moments of our time, appearing and disappearing. Our whole hologram is doing it. And everything on the planet is synchronized by the flash line sequences of, first, the density level we're in, which is dimensions 1, 2, and 3. In this harmonic universe 1, the whole harmonic universe, that means all the planets, stars, everything they're going to find out in outer space, are synchronized on the same set of 3 flash line sequences and frequency bands. And everything that comes into this reality field adopts that as part of their template. If they didn't adopt it, they wouldn't be able to get in here and experience the hologram. What's kind of fun about realizing that you're much more than what you see when you look in the mirror is to start playing with. I won't do it right now. If we have time later, I'll play with this, but we don't really need to because it's not that important. But it's fun. If you want to find out what it means to flash on and off in between moments, there's a way you can train your eyes to begin to see where matter actually disappears and comes back again. And it's usually the easiest way to do it is if you take a partner and you sit like knee to knee and you look into each other's eyes. And there'll be a discomfort level first as the whites of your eyes start to actually pick up. The whites of your eyes are more sensitive to interdimensional frequency. That's why you'll see things out of the corner of your eye and you try to look at them and they disappear a lot of times. Eventually, the rest of your eye will see as well. But what you have to do to begin to see the spots between moments, you just stare at somebody and have them stare at you, right in the eye. Now you're doing a current thing here. You're transmitting current through your eyes. We all do. And they're transmitting it back to you, and you're accelerating the frequency in the space between you. One of the first effects you'll get is you want to rub your eyes because they'll burn. They'll start to burn because the matter of your eyes that they're made of are not used to the frequency yet. This is higher frequency than what your eyes are used to, so they burn. So if you can try to move through that a little bit. I remember doing this with somebody, and literally we were so determined to see what was in the spaces between moments that we're standing there, we're like crying, our eyes are crying, we're not going to close them, not going to close them yet. You know? And we were able to teach our eyes after a while to where it might, in the first minute and a half, we might have ended up, with the eyes crying, where we could do it for 5 or 10 minutes before the eyes would start to burn, because we got our eyes used to being able to dealing with the higher frequencies that were being generated. One of the first effects you'll see is you're staring at the person, and over here, you'll usually catch it out of the periphery. If you're staring right at their eyes, a part of their head will disappear. Not the whole thing, just like a blank spot, a black spot appears. Did I see that? No, I mustn't have saw that, did I? And you look for it, and you try to look at it, and it's not there. Because the whites of your eyes are seeing faster speed than the rest of your eyes. You learn to look at peripheral vision. You learn to actually hold a focus in somebody's eyes, while at the same time teaching the whites of your eyes to look here at the same time and be aware of it, which is really weird. It feels like you have 4 eyes when you start to do that. And then you realize you can take this one and make it go over there, and like this, you'd be like a lizard. You know how lizards do their eyes around like that? You start to realize your perceptions can move a lot more than you're used to. So it's worth playing that game, because you can see some interesting things if you work with a partner, or you can do it in a mirror, but I wouldn't suggest doing that yet, because there are things you need to do to mirrors so you don't get in trouble with them. Mirrors bend light. They bend light in ways that make them easy energy doorways. And you don't know what they connect to. And sometimes somebody on the other side does, and it might not be something that you want to deal with. We have mirrors in there used to be cultures that did not allow mirrors in their homes because they'd have things flying through them all the time. From the astral plane, from other time frames. There were times on this planet where civilizations were just not, anything reflective was considered dangerous because it was an open doorway to God knows what. And usually it wasn't something that God would want there. So there are ways we can code our mirrors that lock them just into our own D12 Christos pattern, so you'll be safe. When we get done with the Kathara workshop, where you learn how to run Maharata current, you could actually do a healing session on a mirror. The technique that we're going to probably by tomorrow is we're going to do it, and it's going to be fun because tomorrow I'm going to ask you to bring like a little blanket or something to lay on, because we're actually going to do facilitations, and people are going to have to like take turns being facilitator and client. Image as your partner in this experiment and stare into your eyes a bit. Find the burning phase. Okay, the frequency is going up. When your eyes start to burn, know the frequency is raising. That's why if we stare at the sun very quickly, our eyes will burn, because the sun is transmitting higher frequency waveforms. But when you start to get into the interdimensional spectra, when it's bouncing back at you from a mirror, from somebody else's eyes, it happens really intensely and quickly. Try to keep your eyes open through it, and if it gets really bad, don't like hurt your eyes. All right, break the focus. But then you have to start the climb into the frequency again. What you can see when you get good at holding this focus is you can begin to see the other selves of you, or the other person that you're looking at. If you want to know who you are in other time vectors right now, and a lot of people say, oh, well, that's just the past, they're dead and gone, it's not important. Excuse me, time is simultaneous, they're not dead and gone. It is important, they're alive right now, wouldn't it be neat to talk to them? You can also use that to be able to access, if you can find a self in another time vector and make a mind link, which can often start with finding that space, that self, in between the spaces between moments, you can make a telepathic mind link. They'll have a different language than you, and very rarely will you translate language back and forth. But what you will get is the ability to do direct cognition. You can get to the point where you can move the consciousness from you, and you can ask them into their field. They're a part of you. If they're part of your own avatar, you have a right to move your focus between them. You're not inflicting yourself on somebody else. You move your focus in, and you can see out through their eyes. Now, you can't influence their thoughts. That would be messing with their free will. But you can look out through their eyes, and they can look out through yours. So there's a lot of things that you can do when you begin to work with frequency. Okay? This last part in here, the vibration. The vibration is the internal movement or energy holding. The movement is on the inside rather than expressed on the outside. That's vibration. The energy holding of particle units. So you have particle units, and they're actually the particum units that hold the energy. They're in particum phase when they're holding energy and vibrating. Then they go into particule phase when they turn on. And there's a synchronization where you end up with particle, particule, and particum all manifest at the same time. They're all different phases of the same energy, but that gets into the flashline sequences, and the synchronization between the rhythms of them is just things you need to know basically, but you don't need to remember, because you're not going to, you don't have to remember the definitions all the time, but knowing they're there in your book, that if you forgot what something is, you can go back and look at it. Okay, oscillation is the external movement. The energy goes onto the outside, or energy expended, or expanded, or transmitted by particle units. Vibratory oscillation rate, which is the rate of particle phasing, vibration oscillation, vibratory oscillation rate, is the rate at which particle phasing, flashing on and off, occurs. So it is simply the rate of particle phasing. That is what is meant by vibration and oscillation. When science uses vibration and oscillation as characteristics to describe what they're perceiving in waveforms and those kind of things, what they are seeing are the evidence of particle phasing, but they don't know particle exists yet. They're seeing the evidence, and very often the evidence that is actually a symptom of something else is identified as the something because they don't realize it's only a symptom of something deeper. So vibration and oscillation, it's good to understand this basic difference between them. Vibration and oscillation exist in direct proportion to each other. As vibration increases, energy holding increases, more goes inside, oscillation decreases because you're taking energy from out here and pulling it in. Faster flashline sequences, the ones that move faster, are higher frequency, expend more energy, which means they have a raised oscillation rate and a lower vibration rate. They move faster, they expend more, they oscillate faster. They're expending more energy. Vibration is the lower fields can be considered vibrating fields comparatively. They have a higher vibration rate and a lower oscillation rate. As you move up the 15-dimensional scale, that changes. When you get to the primal light fields at dimension 13, 14, and 15, they are continually on. They have the highest oscillation rate and the lowest vibration. When you go into the primal sound fields beyond that, they have no light at all. They're completely in the vibration stage. So they have the highest vibration and the lowest oscillation. And then when you take that down and break it into synchronized groups of three-dimensional systems, you have a vibrational oscillation rate, the rate at which Each dimension will have its own vibration and oscillation rate, and they're all synchronized and interwoven with each other. And they're literally, the passages or pulses of consciousness that allow us to move through the hologram. So we're built on vibration and oscillation. Higher oscillation, slower vibration creates slower electron movement around the nucleus and less perceivable density of matter. Here we go, flash lines and matter density levels. Gets interesting. Now this chart, it's on page 18 in your books, but you don't have to look at it. We'll just put it on. Please, Libby. This one gives you some basic characteristics of vibration and oscillation. Okay? These are the higher dimensional fields, which are considered dimension 8 through 15. They have a lower vibration, a higher oscillation. They are expanding energy. They're higher frequency. They have a shorter wavelength. They have slower electron spin. They're less dense, and they're more electric. Over here, the lower dimensional fields that we're in right now, 1 through 8, they have a higher vibration, a lower oscillation. They're contracting energy. They're lower frequency. They have longer wavelength. They have faster electron spin around the nucleus, more density, and they're more magnetic. These are some of the characteristics of matter within the 15-dimensional structure. Now, lower vibration equals less energy holding in the particuli. Now, this is the ones for the higher dimensional fields. This would be the low vibration, high oscillation. Low vibration equals less energy holding in particuli units, more energy expended from particuli units. Higher oscillation equals more expansion. That equals faster flash rate of particuli, higher frequency of flash, it happens more often, more external movement, faster oscillation, shorter wavelength, slower electron spin around the nucleus, which gets into complicated stuff that you need a degree in physics to understand, greater expansion of energy, and it's less dense, less magnetic, more electric. These characteristics become very interesting when we're just getting into it, and it's not going to be even the new stuff because it's not even ready for that. They've been starting to show how this has to do with our perception of time and our ability to move through time. All of this affects temperature, where if we went out and we were freezing to death someplace, if we knew how to modulate the vibration oscillation rate of our body, we could literally not feel the cold and not have it affect us. We could expand and contract time if we knew the vibrational sciences to that degree. They're starting to bring some of it through, and some of it, I'll tell you, is complex. Because it's almost like you get dyslexic with it. Wait a minute, shouldn't it be the other way? No. Remember oscillation and vibration? Oh yeah, okay. So there's a lot to learn with this. This is the beginning. But literally our whole time-space experience is built on what vibration and oscillation are doing with each other within our bodies, within our consciousness, and within the world around us. We exist in relation to the hologram around us. This is a part of ourself that's out here in a different form than us, and we call it separate from us. And this is the self that's here in this body, and then there's another part of us that we know is there someplace. These are vibrational oscillation relationships, and you can change what your relationship out here is. You can change your experience of temperature. You can change your experience of space and time by learning to control your vibration and oscillation rate, which is learning to control your flash line sequences, which is learning to control the dimensional levels of your own consciousness. So these teachings are far-reaching. These are the beginnings of learning how to understand what the framework is and what our body parts are that are connected to that. But the kathara healing, there are millions of books that need to be written on this, and it is a master's course in learning to get a handle on your hologram again, because we were created to have a handle on our hologram and not get run over by it. Okay, can we go to the next one, please? Okay, what's this? Okay, this is some of the stuff that I was talking about yesterday when I showed the 15-dimensional matrix, that diagram with the ovals in it. It says, what's on the top of that one? Dimension and full frequency. Okay, so we go from knowing that a dimension is a full frequency band or a full cycle of flash lines, a full flash line sequence. Then we get into the universal morphogenetic template. Now the word morphogenetic refers to the form-holding blueprint. And it's actually a very specific layer, which can be considered like a thought form layer that's made out of chelons that we'll talk about later. Remember, chelons are groups of particuli that build up into three-dimensional forms. They're crystallized units of particuli, three-dimensionally crystallized units of particuli. The universal morphogenetic template, which is the universal thought field that's made of chelons, It is built upon sets of 15 primary flash line sequences. That's where we get our 15 dimensions. There are 15 primary flash line sequences that create the different dimensional bands that our consciousness is stationed in. They form a 15-dimensional time matrix. Now, there are more than one 15-dimensional time matrix. They go in sets. A 15-dimensional time matrix implies its antiparticle double. Okay? You have a particum universe that's called base magnetic, which is base vibration, and it will have its absolute double that it's connected to. That is the base oscillation or base electric. Particle, antiparticle. There's more to the words particle and antiparticle. We call them base electrical and base magnetic. Base electrical would be the one that had a bit higher frequency, meaning it was oscillating more. And the other one, the base magnetic, would be the one that receives that energy, and it's the same energy that goes between them. Now, the fact that one 15-dimensional time matrix implies its opposite, its counterpart, its antiparticle double, it implies you not only have other incarnations of you running around in the time matrix, you also have replicas. You have a doppelganger, which is an old word that was used to describe a double self, another self from a parallel universe. The antiparticle universe is the parallel universe. We have parallel universes and we have adjacent universes, which are not directly parallel. They're related, but not directly. All right. The structure of a 15-dimensional time matrix, you have one, and if you imagine the oval shape that we'll go back to in a minute, if you imagine that, and then another one, that's one system. There are sets of these that go in sets of 12. So you have 24 time matrices, and that forms a cluster. And the cosmic structure is built on clusters of these. The universe is huge. To give you an idea of how huge is, when we talk about these structures, okay, we're in one time matrix. All right, we are in the first density level right now, what we're focused in one time matrix, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Our cells, our planet is there. So is the sun and all the planets in our galaxy. So is anything that science has fed us pictures from the Hubble spacecraft with. Right now, as long as science could send out a projectile, and if it had endless fuel and could go out forever and ever and ever and ever, it would seem, eventually they would find a curve in time, where mathematics and magnetics start to do weird things. Because we're in a sphere. It's a harmonic universe, and when we get later, tomorrow we'll be talking about Merkaba, and how at the center of a Merkaba field, there's something called a form constant that forms, which is a sphere of energy that creates an electromagnetic domain. That is the screen on which our consciousness, within which our consciousness projects reality. But if you think about how huge our universe seems to be, just from the little bit of pictures the Hubble is sending back to us, we have fathom, wow, look at it, there are billions and billions of things out there. That's one harmonic universe. Just one. There are 5 in this time matrix. This is only one time matrix. It implies it has a double, but they go in sets of 24, but there's not just one set of 24. It's massive. The hologram field is massive. And what's fascinating about it is it's all taking place in the exact same space at the exact same time. Space is an illusion of the hologram. Actually having any type of space. Space implies from one place and then another place. It's all happening in one place, which is the consciousness focus of Source. What makes reality fields, billions and billions of reality fields that are all stacked, they're like thought forms, all stacked together. What makes us able to see one set of them and not another are they're all running on different flash line sequences. We will see only the one that our consciousness has taken on the form of, which means if we're in this system here, we've taken on a form of three-dimensional reality in density 1. So our consciousness is composed down here of waveforms that flash on and off at the D1, 2, 3 rhythm. It has a very specific angular rotation of particle spin that our particles will manifest on because of that. And we will literally be able to walk through the rest of the hologram as if it isn't there. Because in our flash line, it isn't. But all the flash lines are actually just pulses of consciousness that take place in the same space. We are all within God. We never move away from God. It all exists. We are thought forms in the hologram of the mind of God. And we are the mind of God as well. Everything in the universe is a face of God. So there's a hugeness and a smallness that go right hand in hand together with understanding this. We can go for billions of years and billions of miles while we're in hologram. In fact, our hologram will expand to keep up with our thoughts. We will find new angles to explore that weren't there before because we think they might be able to be there. Because we are created in the image of God. Humans were created in the image of God, which means they are consciousness that just by thought has the empowerment to create. How did God create this reality field? Thought it. Decided, let's try that. Thought it, felt it, made it happen. Humans do the same thing, but we forgot that we do it. Okay, let's say
I'm sorry, Fran.
What were you going to say?
You're talking to me.
Okay, now, dimensions are organized into sets of three full flash line sequences, or 3 frequency bands, that create the template through which three-dimensional manifestation can be experienced. Each set of 3 dimensions is called a harmonic universe, as we talked about yesterday. There are 5 harmonic universes within a 15-dimensional time matrix. Each dimension contains 12 primary sub-frequency bands, which if you took a flash line sequence and just looked at this part of it, that would be that one. It's almost like doing squiggles around and round and round. Because a flash line is this, but within it, it has these little loops where it makes little cycles. If you look at this as a time cycle, these are little time continuums that run within them. Just like we have cycles that run nature. We have the cycles of the seasons. We have the cycles of the tides. We have cycles of day to night. We have cycles of years. We have cycles of millennia. Time is circular. It's a cycle. It always comes back to the same point, and then you have a chance to jump up to the next flash line. And if you don't make it, you go back and you repeat the same stuff all over again. Okay, yes? Okay, what if you expand it all the way out past the 15-dimensional matrix, what is outside of there? Is that what you're asking? Okay, I'll get to that in a second. I'm going to put that back up, that diagram, and I'll use that to go there. I'll ask that. Okay. Okay, we got that. I'm just seeing if we have to cover these up. What? Okay, yeah, let's go back to this one now. This is where we left off yesterday. Now, she'd asked a good question. She'd say, what's it like when you get out of here? Okay, if we're stationed down in here in our hologram, what's it like out here? Now out here is source. All right, that's source consciousness that we talked about yesterday. This is a 15-dimensional time matrix. And when we expand out of the directly dimensionalized system into the primal light fields, then into the primal sound fields, and the last expansion is out into source. What is that like? Was the question. What's it like when you get out there? Well, let's put it this way. You can remember some of it if you have experienced a full set of ascension, which means that you've come in to the hologram and literally made your way back out, and you have your DNA all the way up, encoded, where you have the memory files. That's the difference between becoming an ascended master and having an ascended master consciousness that you don't remember having. Is you create the sequence back in your DNA template by activating the DNA. You remember what it was like up there. There are some things of what it's like when you get past here that you just can't put words on. They don't fit. You can't draw pictures because you are beyond sound. You are beyond light. You are therefore beyond form. You're beyond externalization of any kind. You're also beyond individuation while having a memory of any individuation you ever experimented with. So you will know every self you ever were. And you will know you were always much more than that. There are states of direct cognition. The greatest way I can explain it really is a continual state of cosmic direct cognition, of knowing. And there are awesome qualities of it, where there is no fear there. The things we call emotion, and the way emotion works here. you progressively, emotion turns into something else as you move up in your evolution, as you become a soul integrated person, then an oversoul integrated, then a Christos avatar, and then a Rishi, and then an ascended master. It's not that you don't have emotion, or you don't feel, or you don't understand it, but you get into this space where everything's okay, no matter what it is. And that doesn't mean you approve of things that are made to create harm, but you're able to see the lessons that consciousness is teaching itself. And you also respect the other aspects of consciousness enough to not inflict your will on them and say, you can't learn that way because I know a better way. There's a great understanding and compassion that comes, and this is why there's a saying, God allows. God does allow. God doesn't make bad stuff happen. God allows us to experiment with what it means to be manifest, because God is learning through each of us as well. Even though God, that consciousness, knows it all already, because time, learning, implies that there's a point where one didn't know something, there's a point where one is. If time isn't real, which once you get out of here, time isn't real, it implies that it's all known already anyway. It also implies, or it might, the logical mind might think it implies that everything is predestined, which means we don't have free will, which means we got stuck here by somebody, even if it's our higher self, and we just have a life path that we have to live, and whatever we do doesn't make any difference because it's going to happen to us anyway. That's not the way it is. We do have free will. We have been given, like Source, created in the image of God, the ability to directly affect with our thoughts and desires what the hologram we see personally is going to be. It becomes a part of the divine blueprint. When we think a thought, it has the ability to expand the divine blueprint. If it is a thought that is not in harmony with the divine blueprint, it has the ability to erode the divine blueprint. So we are entrusted and given a gift of free will while we're here, but we're entrusted with a responsibility that goes with it. When we get beyond here, it's all a game. In the mind of God, in the heart of God, it's a beloved game. Everybody is loved hugely, because Source, when you are at one with Source, it recognizes every being that was ever manifest as a part of itself. It recognizes the struggles, the things that were learned in that framework, the things that were experienced. There's a huge love. God does not pass judgment on us. That was a lie that was put in to manipulate people here in order to make them subservient to outside external authorities, which are anti-Christos teachings that were meant to take you away from your inner Christos and your direct connection of Source and plug you in to an external source's authority so it could steal your energy. Right now, we're learning to get our connection back. And with it, there's going to be changes. We'll watch our emotions grow, sometimes turbulently, where you're clearing out your DNA template and all sorts of stuff starts to kick up and you just feel really grouchy and lousy and you want to bite. Or you feel really weepy and you just want to cry and you have no idea why. It has to do with what happened 2 million years ago and the incarnation you have there. You just don't remember that part, you're just getting the tears. You know? Or you may get manic, where you just feel the times that once upon a time, I knew I had the power. There's sometimes, all of us have had experiences of mastery of some sort or another. There are times where you may have, where you go out in... this can happen in nature a lot, because there were times when this race were masters of the elemental kingdoms. Talk about Merlins and things like that. We didn't need Merlin, wizards and stuff, because we had a direct relationship with the consciousness of dimension 1 and 2, which are called the Manu consciousness, the elementals. We could direct the weather by thought and will and heart. And as long as we didn't abuse that, it wouldn't abuse us. The weather was great. The consciousness that controls the weather patterns and the natural earth patterns, you could direct tides. If you were nice, if you understood it was a co-creative experience, which means you're not going to inflict your will on that thing, call it an ocean. You're not going to inflict your will on it and treat it as if it's not conscious, so it's going to do your bidding. The way this race used to have the power to interface with the elements and to get them to do what they wanted was out of love, because they would recognize that the molecules that compose the other things were just as conscious as they were, and they were just as much a part of God as the self was. And there was a loving co-creative relationship where if you were out in a boat on an ocean and the sea started to kick up, first thing you'd think was, anything I can do to help you? Is something bothering you, spirit of the ocean, right now? Obviously you're throwing energy around is just something you need to do. And if it's just something you need to do and I can't help you, can you do it over there or help me to get over here so it doesn't harm me? We would have these abilities, and we would have conversations sometimes like that. But most often they came right from here, and there were no words even involved, because it was a language beyond words that you didn't need, but you could feel the power and the love of connecting with the planet that way. There may be times as you go through DNA activation that you begin to feel a kick of that come up, and you just feel like, wow. It's like this energy rush that comes into you that you feel the beginnings of your greatness, of what it meant to be a great avatar being. So there are going to be times when you're pulled this way and pulled that way, and emotions are doing this and they're doing that, and you kind of need to sit back and allow. Be godlike with it. Okay, well, allow that. The emotions know what they're doing. They're trying to clear themselves. If you feel like throwing something or whacking somebody, try to point it at something that's not going to be harmed, you know? But be prepared for it. Okay, we'll go past this now, please. That's the 15-dimensional time matrix.
Yes, sub-frequency.
Really? Yeah. Okay, this chart simply shows you the structure of sub-frequency bands. All right, we have, it didn't change the numbering on yet. There's a little flip that happens in the dimensional scale and the 15-dimensional time matrix that it has to do with expansion and contraction and reversals, but it really belongs in like kathara level 3 or 4 to even worry about it because we don't use it. This chart was made when I was playing with it at that level, like trying to put the teaching together. So this is why you have 1, 4, 3, 2, 5. It means the same thing as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, it's just showing that you have 1 here, you have 2, and 3, and wait, no, 3, then 4, then 5. There's a mathematical thing that was happening there. So on this chart, just realize each one of these is a harmonic universe. Okay, dimensions 1, 2, 3. Okay, these are actually, I need to change this chart. I just looked at this, without using the other system and showing you where the 15-dimensional matrix plugged in with their certain reversals, this actually is very confusing. I'm looking at this and wait a minute, that isn't right. These aren't right. This would be the harmonic universe. Yeah, that is harmonic universe 4. Let me see what this is. I haven't used this chart in a while, by the way, this one. It kind of got stuck in there to illustrate the concept of sub-frequency bands. Yeah, actually it isn't too bad. All right, yeah, all right. I'm confusing it with another chart that had a whole set of numbers here that had to do with counting kilons. All right, because there's a different number of kilons, which are the primary codes. Remember, kilons are 3-dimensional groupings of particuli. They form 3-dimensional particuli grids. They form kilons, and kilons group together to form more crystallization called kilon codes. Later we'll learn that that means fire letters. We'll learn the term fire letters, and some of you might have heard of the word fire letters in relation to DNA. So I was just trying to look at this and see that's not the chart with the fire letters on it. What this one means is harmonic universe 1 is dimensions 1, 2, and 3. It's actually density level 1. Has 12 sub-frequency bands for each one, so there's 36 primary sub-frequency bands there. Now if you add all these up, they each have 12 sub-frequency bands in them. So you get 180 sub-frequency bands, 12 times 15, running there. And then you have another set of them running in the antiparticle universe. Okay? So you have 15 dimensions here and another 15 there. You have the 180 sub-frequency bands here and another 180 there. You get a spherical reality field. Okay. Yeah, this isn't that important. Okay, let's go to the... Yeah, and this one shows you just the density levels that go with it, the matter density levels. Okay. It shows you the dimension number, the harmonic universe number, and the density and the type of matter, which is kind of interesting. All right? Harmonic universe 1, where we are, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. We have carbon-based biology. It's considered physical or gross matter density, where carbon, the biological life forms here, are built on a carbon base. This is why they do carbon dating to test things and those kind of things. The molecules, carbon molecules, are an intrinsic part of the life field on Earth and in density 1 systems. When we get up to density 2, and that means if we had strands 4, 5, and 6 fully activated all the time, and that was the flash line sequence running through our bodies, we wouldn't be here anymore. We'd be in harmonic universe 2. That has a carbon-silica-based biology, where the carbon is starting to transmute into silica crystals, which is like crystal. As we move up, it gets more and more silica-based. We are crystalline life forms, and that progressively begins to show itself the higher up the density scale we go, the higher dimensional scale we go. In harmonic universe 3, dimensions 7, 8, and 9, this is the semi-etheric this is the semi-etheric, this is the etheric state of matter that we talked about yesterday. Silica-based biology. That means literally crystal beings, crystalline matter form, where right now we have carbon molecules in our matter manifestation. When you get up to harmonic universe 3, you are dealing with a matter form that doesn't have carbon molecules in it anymore, which makes it very different from here. There are beings in these reality fields that look like, I've met a few of them too, that look like, it's amazing to even think of them as intelligent beings, and they're a lot more intelligent than we are because their body forms are capable of holding more than what we can hold right now. But they look like spirals of crystals, crystal fibers. They don't have feet and arms and heads like we do. They're living crystalline matrices, some of them. There are also beings that look like very ghostly crystalline hominids. And that's what our race looks like up there as we get into the etheric matter and then go into the pre-matter beyond it. We get into pre-matter, dimensions 10, 11, 12, that's the Christos levels, crystalline liquid light. So it goes from being silica crystals, hard stuff, into those crystals start to melt and dissolve. So it's a crystalline liquid light. It's called hydroplasm. And then in D13, 14, and 15, when we fully expand our bodies to become our rishi selves again, your standing wave patterns, it's our flame body. It's made of antimatter, gaseous light. And then when we move out of the time matrix, we go back to vibrating units of sound, progressively demanifest. So these are the matter density levels that go with the dimensional structure and the harmonic universe structure. Now this little diagram over here illustrates the 5 harmonics of manifestation in one 15-dimensional time matrix. When we showed you the 15-dimensional matrix to show you where the dimensions fit, it looked like this kind of pie in the sky thing, and here's one circle, here's another, here's another, here's another. That was to show you, so you could see strung out, where the dimensional correspondences were. The way each of those reality fields, those spherical reality fields exist, they're nested. Okay? You'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Harmonic universe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means we're in here. To get out here, you don't have to move over there. You need to expand. So the process of getting ourselves out of density is the reverse of the process we used to get ourselves into density, which was to contract ourselves. Once we were at one with God, we contracted ourselves to get in here. Now we expand ourselves to get out. And that expansion is a physical process of energy, and physical referring to all of the physical levels all the way up in the time matrix. Any manifest level that has matter has a level of physicality to it. It might not be physicality like we know it. So we expand back out, and we can ascend by literally bringing back the frequencies and the flashline sequences of the higher dimensional fields back into our body matter. And that's what we're beginning to learn to do with Kathara healing.